Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports. As we proceed through the month of March, we are now entering the free agency period in the NFL. What moves do the Eagles make? We discuss right here in the Tyler Werner Show as the 76ers season is pretty much, kind of collapsed in a sense that Joel Embiid has been ruled out for the rest of the season after Ben Simmons being ruled out the rest of the season as well. So it's kind of Dario Saric leading the charge for the rest of the Sixers season. And the Flyers, who knows if they're even going to make a run here late in the season for a playoff berth as they're on the outside looking in. Meanwhile, we're a few weeks away from baseball season. Let's see what the Phillies got in store for us. But at the end of the day, it's an exciting time where we can kind of talk football again. Eagles football with the moves that they make in free agency. And now, here's Tyler Werner.
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the legal tampering period has begun on I guess we would call Windy Wednesday here on the Tyler Werner Show. As free agency officially begins Thursday, the 8th of March. I'm sorry, the 9th of March. Today's the 8th. And, of course, we have some possible deals to discuss regarding the Philadelphia Eagles and what they do in free agency, which ultimately it goes hand in hand with what they may end up doing in the draft. All right? And the Eagles in recent years, Howie Roseman, known for making some splashes in free agency, whether it be Howie Roseman or, of course, before that, Chip Kelly. But right now, again, it's Howie Roseman time, really, as we got to see what kind of moves are made here. Now, first of all, going back to last week, there was the coin flip between the Rams and the Eagles, I guess it was, to decide. Or no, I'm sorry, it was the Colts. I guess the one in the past was the Rams and the Vikings or whatever, to decide who gets the 14th pick in the NFL draft. All right, so between the 14 and 15 pick, there was this coin flip to decide who would get the one pick better of a selection. And, of course, that was the Eagles that would get that. And I don't know who saw the footage of it, but I don't know, Howie Roseman, kind of threw his arms up in the air in celebration, and
I mean, they're sexy, right? You know,
it looked like Doug Peterson and Jeffrey Lurie were there, filming this on their phones, or at least it looked like Doug Peterson was filming. And I don't know, it was just Howie Roseman fist pumping. I mean, this was over one. I mean, I don't know. It's just,
I like vanilla and chocolate.
I don't know. It's just another little tidbit that kind of made, I don't know. It made the Eagles front office look goofy, kind of, and I don't know. It's just another one of these things where it's go crazy over winning a coin toss to determine who gets one pick better, one slot moved up in the draft, because it's there's nothing else here to celebrate with the Philadelphia Eagles as far as winning is concerned in recent memory. So, I don't know. I mean,
gosh, it went great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they looked happy about it. I don't know, but anyhow, free agency week is here. The Sixers are not really able to compete anymore. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons ruled out for the rest of the season, and I guess so stay tuned for next year when hopefully both of these guys are out on the court with Dario Saric, who has risen up and has kind of been the hero as of late. Anything, I guess, to be hopeful about is that Dario Saric came here, and he didn't hit any rookie walls, and it looks like he's ready to be a key cog here in the 76ers organization going forward. Maybe not a standout superstar like Embiid and Ben Simmons have the obvious potential to be, but definitely a very crucial role player here going forward. Having said that, their season's, kind of going down as far as any inkling of competing for anything. And the Flyers, again, I don't know whether to trust them or not. I mean, they pick up a few wins here and there. Last night, they score 6 goals against the Buffalo Sabres, 6-3 win. And it's like, where has this scoring been all this other time? So I agree. I don't know, we'll see. But they're trailing the Islanders by a few points, and with the last month here to go in the season, I don't know. But I'm not sold on the Flyers, and Claude Giroux looking like he's on the decline, and it's not quite the player he once was known for being here as Captain Claude. But anyhow, we roll on with Eagles free agency. Another very interesting free agency period that can ultimately affect what the Eagles do in the draft. Possible deal number 1 at the top of the board is wide receiver, speedy, explosive wide receiver who's young from the New Orleans Saints, Brandon Cooks. Now, with the legal tampering period being in effect as of Tuesday, there's a little, poker game going on between the Saints and the Philadelphia Eagles to decide whether Brandon Cooks gets traded here to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, apparently, the New England Patriots reached out to the New Orleans Saints with their first-round draft pick, which, of course, was pick number 32 because they were Super Bowl champions, of course. So, having said that, Saints turned that down. Basically, just alone that pick number 32 for Brandon Cooks. Now, the Eagles, at pick 14, that changes the landscape a little bit. First of all, do you support, how far are you willing to go with bringing Brandon Cooks here, and what do you give up? Before even getting into this article here with the discussion between Brandon Cooks and, all right, straight up, do the Eagles trade pick number 14 and bring Brandon Cooks here? Do you do the deal? I would. Now, I know that, and here's the thing. The whole thing with the NFL draft being in Philadelphia. All right, if anybody's saying, like, oh, they can't trade away their first-round pick, the draft's in Philadelphia, they wouldn't have a first, forget that, all right? Because you bring Brandon Cooks here, that's an immediate upgrade. And I know, and look, I'm actually all for the Eagles. Say they don't get Brandon Cooks. Say they have that first round pick at 14. I'm all for the Eagles taking Mike Williams if available there. I'm all for them taking either the best receiver available, the best corner available, which they can get a good corner in the second round. And as far as running back is concerned, not in the first. You can get a good young running back in here in the second or third round. All right. Maybe not an Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, but a good serviceable running back. And we'll talk about some combine numbers, because they're, certainly the combine was pretty interesting last week, to say the least. There were some, between receivers and running backs, and there were some interesting statistics that came out. And, a new 40-time record, and it's just interesting. It's interesting to follow and see how that changes the picture as we move towards the draft after free agency. But going back to Brandon Cooks, and this is a guy who the Eagles apparently they had their eye on a few years ago when he was drafted, when the Saints moved up to pick him. And the Eagles, again, the Saints, they leapfrogged the Eagles and got Brandon Cooks. And meanwhile, the Eagles, they kind of just sat back, and if I'm not mistaken, they ended up taking Marcus Smith. Now, I don't know whether that was Howie Roseman's responsibility or Chip Kelly to blame for that. I don't know at that time. But the Saints, now with probably having to pay Willie Snead, and with the emergence of Michael Thomas in his rookie year, and with Drew Brees eating up a large portion of their salary, and with the Saints maybe wanting to go defense here, just an overabundance of offensive receiving threats and running backs. Somebody's got to be expendable, and it looks like Brandon Cooks is that guy. Do you support the Eagles take? I say yeah. He's going to be a young 24-year-old receiver to come in here for several years and be effective. Now, you're going to have to pay him a little bit. That's obvious. And the Eagles, they got to trade away some guys here on defense that may just not fit. Like Connor Barwin, who's entering his 30s now, and who just wasn't as effective this past year with the scheme change on defense. And Kendricks, who has become like a part-time player on defense. And the hype that was shown early in his career, it hasn't really had anything to show for. Dude, here's another, say the Saints want the first-round draft pick out of the Eagles and a player. Who do you deal away? Maybe Vinny Curry? I don't know. But you can sell me on bringing Brandon Cooks in here, a speedy weapon, and maybe I don't know, maybe in the second round they draft a big wide receiver. Although it remains to be seen, because they still might, that second round pick, they might want to use on a cornerback. They might want to, since they got a receiver in the free agency, they might want the best cornerback that they can get. So here's according to Ian Rappaport, the Saints are continuing to talk with the Eagles, as well as the Patriots and the Titans, on a deal centered around Brandon Cooks. Now, the Eagles apparently have gained some recent leverage, as the Saints seem to have backed up a bit from their first-round pick demands. Let's see here. None of the three teams interested in the speedy receiver seem to want to part ways with that high of a draft pick. So apparently, the Eagles maybe are not willing to give up the number 14 pick. let's see here. Again, like I said, Philadelphia, Connor Barwin, Vinnie Curry, Michael Kendricks are all available. And maybe the Eagles would be willing to get rid of one of them. Barwin is owed $18.8 million over the next 2 seasons. But the Saints run a 4-3 defense. Barwin is better suited for a 3-4. Curry is owed $43.5 million over the next 4 years of his deal. Potential's there for that. The Saints have just over $27 million in salary cap space. They could take on Curry's contract. So, Cooks, 215 catches for 2,861 yards and 20 touchdowns in his 3-year career of the Saints. But take the rookie year out of it. Cooks has 2,311 yards and 17 of those touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. 162 catches that span and a 65.9 catch percentage. Last season, Cooks had 78 catches for 1,173 yards and 8 touchdowns, averaging 15 yards per reception. Now that's an immediate improvement. A near 1,200-yard receiver. And again, this was with Michael Thomas in the mix, the emergence of him, Willie Snead. A pretty decent crop of receivers there to spread the ball around. So that blows anything out of the water that the Eagles have. Dorial Green Beckham or Nelson Aguilar, as far as number 1 receivers are concerned, it's laughable. So, Brandon Cooks, a guy who's ready to come in here. Yeah, you're going to have to pay him a little bit. But a guy that's going to be able to come in here right away and be effective with the rookie quarterback Carson Wentz. However, again, like I've said before, I'm all for them drafting Mike Williams in the first round, if available. Or as good of a receiver as they can get with that pick. And they can grow with. Certainly there are options here. But you can sell me on trading the 14th pick to get Brandon Cooks here from the Saints. And you know what? If they want Vinnie Curry, if they want Michael Kendricks, if they want Connor Barwin as well in the deal, yeah, because these guys are all expendable. And from a salary cap standpoint, that takes some chunk of change off their chest as well, knowing that they're going to have to they're going to take on Brandon Cook's salary as well. And the Eagles, as it is, they do have a limited cap space. Now, to free that up, too, I mean, I'm hoping, I'm not optimistic about it, but can they get rid of Chase Daniel, please? I mean, really?
Hit him up! Move him out!
And this is one of the major criticisms that I had with last year's offseason, and whether it was throwing Doug Peterson a bone and getting him one of his guys here. But to hold a clipboard all season, pretty much. Especially when Carson Wentz was the third stringer, Bradford was traded, and Carson Wentz leapfrogged to the starting position over Chase Daniel. You don't need to be paying Chase Daniel $8 million to be holding a clipboard. And as far as being a backup quarterback goes, if for some bad, unfortunate disaster happens where Carson Wentz gets hurt and can't play for a prolonged period of time, I mean, but I don't know. Is there anybody that would be interested in Chase Daniel taking on that $8 million deal and whatnot? I don't know. That's unfortunate.
Okay, I'm going to keep loving on him.
Yeah, I'm sure Doug Peterson will if, Chase Daniel remains here. But if they were to be able to get rid of him, free up some extra cap space, but I'm not optimistic about that. So we're going to take a break here on the Tyler Werner Show. And again, free agency, the legal tampering period has begun. And we're talking about it right here in the Tyler Werner Show. Stay tuned for more right after this on the program.
What defines the perfect ball? It's not just about size when it comes to Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs.
I've handled dozens of balls over the past week. We prepare our balls over time. The texture of the balls is very easy to identify.
And that slow-cooked texture is one of the qualities that make Brady and Belichick's meatballs stand above the rest. But it's also Brady's unique rubbing process that only he has the authority to perform.
When I pick those balls out, to me, they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them. To me, those balls are perfect.
Once the balls reached an equilibrium, we're down to the rubbing process.
Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs. When you're looking to make it a pasta night, or doing a little catering. Like Brady would say, to me, those balls are perfect.
It's no big news flash that many people, you included, eat as a way to medicate themselves. You can choose to worry about it, or not. You can choose to panic about your situation, or not. It's clear what you must do in order to make important changes.
5 letters here. RELAX. Relax. We're going to be okay.
In order for you ever to effectively figure out and map how to get to where you want to go, you have to first know exactly where you are starting.
RELAX. Relax.
You have to be willing to change what you're doing. You can change your behavior.
We're back right here on the Tyler Werner Show on this free agency edition, or I guess the legal tampering period edition that has begun as of Tuesday, and free agency begins tomorrow, Thursday, I believe at 4 p.m. Eastern Time here, so we're in the midst of possible moves. And ladies and gentlemen, we have some breaking news here. As there's a report out of Benjamin Albright that barring something big changing, my understanding is Djax to Tampa Bay and Kenny Britt to Philly tomorrow. So how about that, ladies? There's an interesting report. A bit of a monkey wrench thrown into this whole Brandon Cooks deal, or the possibility of signing, say, Kenny Stills from the Miami Dolphins. According to Benjamin Albright, after losing out on Stills, the Eagles may have found a different receiver for Carson Wentz. Now, according to Benjamin Albright, Kenny Britt, who's 28, is expected to sign with the Eagles when free agency begins at 4 p.m. on Thursday. So what do you think? I don't know. This seems like a Band-Aid player here. Now, for one thing, he's 28 years old. All right, so he's in his prime still, but there's not a whole lot more upside to him, like, say, Brandon Cooks, where he's got, still several several years of high-level play ahead of him, as well as great speed. Kenny Britt last year with the Rams, for one thing, pretty subpar quarterback play there. Okay, the Rams, they don't really have an identity, and they don't really have a quarterback, so it seems. Despite drafted Jared Goff number 1 overall last year, it remains to be seen how he's going to pan out in the NFL. But nevertheless, Kenny Britt, he caught 68 balls last year for 1,002 yards and 5 touchdowns. Okay. He was a 1,000-yard receiver with a team that didn't really have a solid quarterback. 68 balls, it's decent, I guess. It's an improvement over what they have right now on the outside. But again, kind of a Band-Aid player. So as far as long-term maybe they can get a couple decent years out of him, but I mentioned before, I believe they should go younger. Whether that's drafting Mike Williams at 14 or whoever, or signing Brandon Cooks, trading for him, whatever. Because, again, Connor Barwin, Michael Kendricks, those guys might end up getting cut if they don't trade them. And that'll free up some cap space for them. They cut Connor Barwin. Apparently, they'll save like $6.8 million. Now, Kenny Britt, I'm thinking they're not going to have to pay him quite as much as they would Brandon Cooks, but again, kind of a Band-Aid player here. Band-Aid signing for wide receiver. Not a very long-term answer, we'll say. I'm a bit lukewarm on if that does indeed happen. And according to Benjamin Albright, barring something big changing, Kenny Britt's he's coming to Philadelphia. We'll remain, I guess, remains to be seen tomorrow on Thursday.
Don't know.
Now, apparently, Kenny Stills, Pierre Garçon, Brandon LaFell, and Brandon Marshall are already reportedly off the market well before the start of free agency. Of course, it looks like Brandon Marshall is going to the Giants, which gives them a little bit of depth. And certainly for the Philadelphia Eagles, being in the same division, Eli Manning has a couple of targets for sure on offense. Kenny Stills was another good option for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I say was because apparently Kenny Stills is re-signing with the Dolphins from two sources, according to Benjamin Albright. Not coming from Philadelphia. Kenny Stills, he's only 24, like Brandon Cooks. Serious deep threat. Some early reports talk about him getting over $10 million a season. According to Ian Rappaport, there are still at least 3 teams in the mix. So, and one of those would be the Eagles. So, I guess you can't rule it out yet, but, again, according to Benjamin Albright, Kenny Britt, to his understanding, is signing with the Eagles. Whether or not, what this means for Brandon Cooks, I don't know. Apparently, Brandon Cooks the Tennessee Titans offered their number 18 pick, and apparently that was also turned down. Now, the Eagles apparently are also targeting Texans 25-year-old free agent cornerback A.J. Boye. He would be, of course, the latest Texans player to join the Eagles after Connor Barwin, D'Amico Ryans, Brandon Brooks, Brian Brayman, amongst others. This is according to Aaron Wilson. Eagles are still not considered a serious player for A.J. Boye at this time, but of course things can always change. Now, as far as Boye is concerned, again, it depends what report you read. Earlier, according to Elliott Shore Parks, later this morning, the Eagles are pursuing him, and that apparently they might be the favorite to land him. According to ESPN's Ed Werder, the Texans are worried that they will be losing Boye to the Eagles once free agency begins on Thursday. Last season, he finished with 63 tackles, 1 interception, and is considered the best cover cornerback among available free agents. Now, I do mention, though, he did have some interception. He did pick off Tom Brady in that one playoff game. I believe twice. Now, Boye, he's only 25 years old, stands 6 feet, 191 pounds, checking off some important boxes for the Eagles. Good size, young, and is strong in man coverage. So, the Eagles do that. I mean, I don't know. There's a couple of possible, but I guess the surest thing right now, the way it sounds like it sounds like Kenny Britt could be coming here. Again, Brandon Cooks, we don't know. And perhaps are the Eagles trying to get Boye over here from the Texans? The cornerback position? I'll tell you what, it's a helter-skelter here. But again, a 25-year-old corner, I'd be for that. Now again, who do the Eagles? At some point, I'm thinking Connor Barwin's getting cut, if not traded, in any of these deals. Kendricks, I don't know. If they hold on to Kendricks until June 1st and then release him, apparently they'll save $5 million in cap space that they'll have to hold on to until then. But if they cut him now, it'd be less than $2 million. So it's a bit complex there. So again, little lukewarm on possibly signing Kenny Britt, because again, and this is what I said too about Deshaun Jackson. Like if the Eagles would try to target him again, which he's 30 years old now, going on 31. Britt, he's 28, might have a couple good years in play left in him, but again, I don't think he's someone that you can build with. Might be a temp guy for a couple of years, good play maybe, but I don't know. But again, Mike Williams, draft him, build with him. Brandon Cooks, he's only going to be 24 years old next season. And he's already played a couple of years in the NFL. He's experienced. He's ready to go. He's ready to produce for you right now. And in a few years' time, he's still got several good years left ahead of him. And you can kind of say the same, again, about drafting a Mike Williams in the draft or whoever. Kenny Stills. Maybe not quite at the level of Brandon Cooks or maybe Mike Williams, the way he can maybe shape up to be in the NFL, but still a good deep threat, better than what the Eagles have. Now, according to Jeff Kerr, here's another kind of conflicting report. The Eagles are still in the market, but apparently, according to him, Kenny Stills appears to be their primary target. According to Omar Kelly of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, the Eagles are the front-runner to land Stills, who the Miami Dolphins have failed to re-sign, despite remaining in contract negotiations with them. There have been so many whispers of Kenny Stills to the Eagles. I'm a bit surprised. The Eagles are hot on every other receiver so far. That's the way it seems. It seems like the Eagles are hot on all these receivers. Who really knows who all is going to come to the Eagles? Stills has been rumored to receive around $8 million a year from the Dolphins. He's expected to get a much higher contract if he signs with another team. Stills he had 42 catches last year, 726 yards, and 9 touchdowns, averaging 17.3 yards per catch. So, the deep threat ability is there. Not a whole lot of catches, not a whole lot of yards he had. But 9 touchdowns, that's a bit substantial. Red zone threat. And 17.3 yards per catch is pretty significant as well. I mean, what was Carson when? I mean, his average yards per completion with the slop the Eagles had on the outside receiver. I mean, what? It was like 6 yards a throw? Here you got a guy who's averaging 17.3 yards a catch. Significant improvement. He's in his whole career, he's averaging 16.7 yards a catch. Yeah, I mean, pretty significant. Again, 24 years old. Last season, he had 6 touchdown catches of 39 plus yards. That's pretty significant. 67% of his touchdown receptions were 39-yard plus bomb plays, or deep pass play, however you want it. Long touchdowns. While the Eagles, they just had 1 touchdown all season in that category. So I'd be younger receiver, deep threat. Might be a little higher on Kenny Stills than I would be Kenny Stills and Kenny Britt. Got the Kennys here that the Eagles could potentially sign. So again, lot of swirling potential signings here that the Eagles could make. And we're just, again, tomorrow, Thursday, everything, that's where things start becoming inked. That's where deals start becoming inked. And what's tampering right now becomes signings and cuttings and, tradings, if, that makes any sense. All right, so we'll come right back on the Tyler Werner Show. Discuss some more here as we move forward with free agency beginning tomorrow for the NFL. Big free agency with the Philadelphia Eagles. What did they do? Who did they sign? It's inevitable they're going to get a new receiver in here. That's going to be an improvement in some form or another in free agency. It's the Tyler Werner Show. We'll be right back after this.
Okay, Rocco, pretend I'm the girl that you want to ask out on a date. How about maybe you and I, maybe we go out together, get something to eat. I don't know, maybe laugh a little bit. Who knows, you know? I don't know. Would you like to maybe, you and me go out together? What do you think? Would you like to?
You need to make more eye contact, and you sound way too nervous.
You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
Having a tough time asking out ladies? You need to see Clubber Lang for a lesson.
Hey, woman. Hey, woman. I bet you stay up late every night dreaming you had a real man, don't you? I tell you what, bring your pretty little self over to my apartment tonight, and I'll show you a real man.
Build confidence with the ladies like never before with Clubber Lang's dating services. The most highly recommended in all of the Delaware Valley.
I am ranked number one. One! That means I'm the best.
Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting, the word customer begins with C-U. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.
And we're back on the Tyler Werner Show on this legal tampering edition. I guess if you so will call it that. As free agency officially begins tomorrow on Thursday, the 9th of March. And this is just the time, the calm, I don't know if you want to call it a storm. Well, whatever. The calm before the free agency storm, if that makes any sense. And, ladies and gentlemen, do you trust the process here of the... Not the Sixers, but the Philadelphia Eagles and what they may be doing here?
Trust the process.
Yes, as Doug Peterson has coined before. Again, Kenny Britt, is it going to be Brandon Cooks that they bring here? Is it going to be Kenny Stills? Who knows? Now, I do want to note that Brandon Graham was told by the Eagles that he's not getting traded. There are some rumors that, would the Eagles maybe have to give him up in a trade for Brandon Cooks or something like that? According to Jeff Mosier of 97.5 The Fanatic, the Eagles told Brandon Graham he's not getting traded. He was rumored to be involved in a package deal to the Saints for Brandon Cooks because New Orleans wants a pass rusher in the deal, but it's not going to be Brandon Graham. I don't know. Brandon Graham had a good year last year, mainly a good first half of the year, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I want to give him up as well as the first round draft pick. I would, again, if there's a way to get rid of one of the other guys, that's another story. But I don't know about Brandon Graham. I wouldn't want to do that, because then you'd be hamstringing yourself on defense a little too much in the pass rush department. Now, according to Mosher, I don't know what the Saints realistically expect to get for Brandon Cooks. I do know Brandon Graham has been told he's not getting traded. Now, they're still seeking, the Saints, a mid-first round pick for Brandon Cooks, but appear to have reduced the offer, which brings up Brandon Graham. His stats. The Eagles have other pass rushers to offer to the Saints, like I mentioned earlier. Connor Barwin, Vinnie Curry, and Michael Kendricks. Again, what Kendricks, Barwin, It would free up cap space. Those guys, it doesn't seem like they're going to be here long term anyways. They're probably going to get cut, if not traded. Vinny Curry, that's a different name there. Maybe not quite as expendable as the other guys, but yeah, it could probably trade him in this deal if it would take that. So that's kind of where that stands right now. Again, Brandon Graham being told he's not getting traded. I wouldn't want. I don't think trading him would be the answer. Now, aside from all this, all the hoopla with free agency that, always is here in the NFL, we had last week an interesting scouting combine with John Ross breaking the all-time 40-yard dash time. And I know, some people, it was kind of dubbed this year as, just every year, I guess, the scouting combine. But first time I heard it dubbed this. The underwear Olympics, apparently.
I was wearing tighty whities back then.
Yeah, in the scouting combine. That these guys, they're on. It's not in-game performance and yada yada. It's kind of analytics and 40 times and shorts. I got it, but it still says something when John Ross runs a 4.22 40 and breaks the all-time 40-yard dash record in the combine. And certainly this, for instance, helps a guy. This helps raise his status in the draft. That raises eyebrows, that kind of speed. Yeah, he's a 5'11", 190 guy, but as we just saw, in college and with breaking the combine record for the 40-yard dash, he can blow the top off of defense with this kind of blazing speed. And he's got good hands. So you wonder where he fits in. He definitely, big playability, raised his status in the draft, certainly with that 40 time. And again, a possible consideration. Corey Davis, another one, out of Western Michigan. Let's see how he did here. I don't even know if I can find where he. Let's see. Did he even? Let's go to wide receiver here. And some guys, they don't. For one reason or another, they don't do the bench press or whatever. I don't know if it's like to hide anything, but anyhow, yeah, Ross was far and away the best of wide receiver in the 40-yard dash time. In the 60-yard shuttle, Shelton Gibson was the top of the list there for receivers at 10.71. And again, it's sometimes selective because not everybody does it. Let's look at the running backs because again, this is an area where the Eagles, you'd think maybe depending what they do in free agency as well, maybe second, third round, do they get a good running back that can come in here and improve the position. Maybe somebody they can build with, shore up that position in conjunction with Sproles and maybe Kenyon Barner. Because Ryan Matthews, he's not a full-time, and he might, what do they do with him? Really. So, running backs, top 40 times. T.J. Logan with a 4.37 out of North Carolina. Joe Williams, a 4.41. Tarek Cohen, 4.42. Now, however, you look at some of these guys. You also look at their bench press. And what kind of stats they had on that. What kind of power do they have? Like T.J. Logan, very fast. However, on the bench press, not so hot, not as hot as some of these other guys. Freddie Stevenson, he's a fullback, but he's still kind of throwing 24. Christopher Carson, 23 reps. Dalvin Cook, that's a name you're hearing a lot. He had 22 reps. Pretty good. His 40-yard dash time, 4.49, which was tied for 7th. Christian McCaffrey, 4.48 He's another name that you're hearing as among the better running backs. What did he have? I don't even think he did the bench. By the way, the Samaje Perine had 30 reps. He was 5'11", 233 pounds. So that's a power back out of Oklahoma. What did he do in the 40 though? I'm trying to look. Yeah, see, he had a 4.65 40. But 30 reps, so it's like a power back there. Actually, I can go back here and kind of click on the guys and their stats. See what all they did in the combine. All right, again, John Ross. Going back to receivers. 4.2, didn't do the bench press. Vertical jump, 37-inch. Broad jump, 133 inches. So that's pretty interesting. Going back to running backs. That's what I wanted to go back to. It took me back to receivers. Let's go T.J. Logan. Again, 5'9", 196 pounds. Had the fastest time, 4.3 amongst running backs, 4.37. Bench 17 reps, decent. 121-inch broad jump, pretty good. So he's among, probably the top of running backs with that speed and with 17, but it's nothing to write home about. But let's look at Christian McCaffrey again. He had 4.48 40, and he's actually a white running back, a little unusual, but only had 10 reps on the bench. Only 10. That's not very high.
Come on, that's terrible!
Yeah, I mean, for a running back, I don't know. That's pretty low. Anyhow, that's kind of the gist of some of these running backs here that I guess could perhaps be taken high in the draft. Possible guys for the Eagles to look at. I mean, this is on NFL.com. You look up scouting combine stats, and it's all there. I know. Like Adrian Peterson was out in the free agency market and whatnot. But yeah, come on. You want to get some young blood in here at running back, I think. And again, maybe a guy that you can rely on, not a part-time guy, where you rotate between. I mean, a guy that can come in here, get 20 carries a game or something. Guy, more of a full-time back. And then you got your change-up guys in Kenyon Barner and Darren Sproles while he's still playing and whatever else. But that's pretty much it. Not three guys where, they each get 8 or 6 to 8 carries or something like that. I don't know. It's just not going to cut it too much. I think you got to find a clear number one running back. Kind of like it's important where the Flyers should try to find a clear starting goaltender, which they've kind of had trouble with the last couple of years. But apparently Neuvirth has been signed to a deal, and Steve Mason might be the odd man out there, so I don't know. But the same can kind of be said for the running back position. So it remains to be seen. That's more for the draft. But the scouting combine, nevertheless, does it kind of change the mindset of how you also approach free agency? Because you want to draft this guy here at this position, etc., etc. But one thing's for sure, the Eagles, they are apparently all over the market, at least in the tampering period here, with targeting this receiver and that receiver and having discussion. I don't know right now. I really don't. But
don't know.
Tomorrow, once free agency really begins officially and deals start getting inked, we'll know more. That's all we can say. And again, at this time next week, on the next edition of the Tyler Werner Show, we'll know a lot more. And we'll talk about it right here in the Tyler Werner Show. But until then, it's just tampering. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Tyler Werner Show.
Are you following me on Twitter?
No, I'm not on Twitter. But are you... Like the Facebook page at facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Like the YouTube channel, etc. Stay tuned for more. Philadelphia Sports Talk is next week. We'll be talking free agency and what moves the Eagles will end up making or will end up not making, and who they get rid of, who they don't get rid of. As football talk is kind of back full circle with free agency coming full circle tomorrow on March 9th. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you next time on the Tyler Werner Show.